start recording, and then I will share. Oh, wrong one, sorry. All right, Lena, you should see your slides.
Yes, I can see them.
All right, great.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being with us, considering it's the 11 a.m. old time, and we're still in this transition period for the new time. I will try not to duplicate some of what was said, which I agree greatly. It was programming relationship built on trust and coordination and learning as we go. And then, the work evaluation that's been done at RTI is really a team effort. Alan O'Connor leads it, and there's a number of different kind of professionals involved in this, and I think that what made it kind of successful. We have IT developers, economists, psychologists, and people with all kind of background that really help to provide different methodological kind of view on that. Next slide, please. Quick snapshot about RTI. I'm not going to get into our history, but I would like to emphasize that this project was particularly excited because of the kind of nature of RTI itself. It was formed as a kind of public-private partnership, kind of its own regional hub. So the topic of this kind of regional hubs really resonated and made us really excited about doing this work. Next slide, please. So this is the overview of the program and a kind of a reminder of us what it is, right? Even though it's an NIH program, it has a very kind of national level view. These are only hubs 2015, 2019. I was involved the most, and we have another one. And a big part of this kind of increase of the program and this cohorts, it was really part of our ability to work with NIH and the hubs to understand the program, despite of the obvious differences in the regions and universities and the technologies and innovators, and the kind of making that structure that really work and kind of scaling it up. Next slide, please. Thank you. Our scope of work is pretty inclusive. As Kathleen said, we didn't start it from the get-go, but we started shortly after the beginning, and there was a lot of kind of hoops that we had to play. But it's pretty, at the basic level, we do provide kind of reporting and administrative support to NIH to understand how the hubs are doing at the baseline during the process, and some of the effort we are doing is kind of what's happening with the specialty technologies after these programs. So it's very comprehensive. Our functions include from recommending the research methods. We're very mindful about how we approach different questions that we have. We're very mindful about not collecting data unless we really need to, or asking that. It's very important to us. Because we want to help succeed. We don't want them to kind of deviate from their core function and really spend as much time as administration, considering that they really don't have that funding to do that. So there was a lot of kind of developing the methods and the tools that I will get into more detail, that is really user-friendly for the hubs, user-friendly for the NIH. It's very specific to what everybody needs, and being mindful of not having high administrative burden. You can find some of the publications that we did about this topic. This is more recent one. It has a little bit kind of this general picture of the metrics and the data that we collect. Next slide, please. So like Kathleen said, there is a number of things that that really do. We do surveys, we do interviews. They all are very complementary, just because of no one method will provide you that one information. They target different type of audience. We're, especially COVID slowed down a little bit our visit side, but we're kind of back at it. And there's people on our team that really see a lot of value in putting that effort to build on this common understanding, the trust at the very get-go. It really benefits us in the long term. In my personal experience, when we started 2019 hubs, I was right kind of at the process of them being onboarded to the process and how they're going to kind of design their programs. And we really put a lot of upfront time, and it really paid off, which we're very excited about. And today we will look at the case study of technology tracker. We developed a tool goal update tracker. It's been pretty unique and exciting project to work on, partially because it's been it's been very user friendly, but highly used too by NIH, particularly, and hubs as well. It provides really a technology level understanding of where they are in their progression, their timelines, which is very central to any translational programs, any research programs. The level of the unit level that we're tracking is actually not a project per se. Like, bigger project has its start and then the funding, right? Because the project is designed to support the technology, we're tracking the technology level. So we care about what happened before the program and what happened after. Obviously, we are trying to do it in a way that is sustainable, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of kind of work that goes into it. But we also always keep it on much lighter way for the hubs themselves. So one of the things that I will talk about is how do we design technology tracking for the hubs to provide us data that we need in a way that is very much in tune with their own processes. So we are not kind of diluting them from their kind of core functions. Next slide, please. So update tracker, on the right side, you see, some of the things that it provides. It has kind of dashboard that provide portfolio level view and of what those technologies are about, the funding that those technologies are able to accumulate over time. On the right upper corner, you see a page that the technology specific page. So it has abstract and all the information in a kind of timeline level that sums up to this aggregate dashboard. On the left side, it's important to, I think, emphasize the history, how we arrived here. As most evaluation, it started from, building it up, lots of kind of Excel spreadsheet moment that I think all of us can relate to. What I think the last bullet that was really driven why we developed this tool. And the reason for it is because NIH was very involved. Kathleen and others invested in the program's success, and it was like how they're doing, are they on track, things like that. They also wanted to make sure they are transparent with any stakeholders that they have. They can provide the data anytime they talk to somebody at the conferences, at the meetings. So we had a lot of this ad hoc requests. He's like, hey, RTI, can you provide us this information or this information? While it was a challenging during that moment, what it resulted in is actually update tracker and designing something that was really needed. We directly addressed the questions that were asked and provided the dashboard in a way that NIH can come into the update tracker, look at that all the information in a data form, in a Word format, in a dashboard format. So they are pretty independent users of the update tracker as of now, and not just NIH, but others as well. So the capabilities are, it's based on the role. Obviously, depending on whether you're NIH or whether you're hub or RTI, you have a kind of different security levels as well, right? Because we don't want anybody to see data that is really not appropriate to their access level. It warns you when you need to provide any updates on a given technology. It has different expert features, and for yourself, you can play with the data, look at different graphics. And every hub has their own, like, CRM systems or whatever they use. So we actually, some hubs, they have Salesforce, and we have a processes of incorporating the data in more or less automated way. Next slide, please. What I find personally the most exciting is how the data collection gets into, is embedded in the processes of hubs itself. So in all the translational programs, the people who work with the project and PIs are people who really like your mentors, and they help you to kind of keep on track on how to develop your technology, not in a traditional research sense, right? The result is not publishing the papers. The result is commercialize or kind of sell your technology. And those people, they meet with PIs, some cases every week, but at the very least monthly. In those mentoring sessions, the page about that particular technology is being used as those technical leads are talking with the PIs. So they will pull up this wizard that Alan likes to refer as a TurboTax slide, and just basically run over this main categories of the questions that we really care about. So those are, whether any startup forms, obviously that's not going to happen that often, any activity around licensing, any activity around SBR, CTR, small business applications and award, funding, that's something that happened more frequently. And then the TRL level, that's I'm not going to go too deep into that, but it's a common metrics that we use to assess where that technology is in that commercialization pathway. We care about other things as well, like the end user, of all of these technologies, essentially patients, and we care about, whether that particular drug or therapeutic got any, regulatory, reaching any regulatory milestone. And then essentially you can go through those questions pretty fast because it shows you where you were the last time you talked to, so it's not that time consuming. And what it rolls up to is that technology level page. It has all the kind of basic information about the project itself, but on the right side, you see is a timeline. This is basically their story, where they were, how they arrived, and where they are going. But what is the most exciting, I think, is that it's kind of part of the process of they already have. It's part of that mentoring, and they're using what we consider as an important way to capture information and data about how the programs are doing in a very organic way that doesn't really disturb their normal processes. To say that we arrive here very quickly, that would be a lie, because there is a lot of this kind of training involved. Some hubs were really excited about the idea, and it's like, well, this fits perfectly in how we do things, other not so much, and we're still kind of flexible in that way. We're not really enforcing like this is how you want to use it. So next slide, please. I have only a few slides left. Yeah, and this was actually one of our sites at Louisville. They showed in their way in what were their best practices in using the update tracker. And you can see how kind of they align it with their processes. And like Josh said it, earlier, is that they, sometimes you have your audience that you need the data from, and they don't even see that data at the end. So while we always encourage them to look at it, the site itself showed, well, we use the data at the different levels, right? Technology level, site level, in our meetings with technology transfer offices, with our stakeholders, in addition to actually the teams, the innovator teams themselves. So, and we're very excited to work with people like that. It's very different relationship when somebody views you as a evaluator. Somebody, it's like, oh, you're gonna really, ask me to provide you all this data instead of me focusing on what my core function is. Next slide, please. I think that was most of it. Yeah, I think that's it. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and I guess we have just open discussion around what we discussed today.
Yeah, thanks, Lena. And it looks like Matt McMahon, who's the director of the Seed Office, has joined about halfway through. So Matt, I want to put you on the spot, but if you have any comments about evaluation and how it's helped you and your teams to deliver translational and commercialization services to the NIH community, that would be great.
Sure, thanks, Josh. I would say that the update tracker and the infrastructure that we built in to collect and manage that information has been super helpful, because one of the things we did from the very beginning was try and understand what are those common data elements, what are the key indicators of success that really mean the most for us, and narrow down that list. And then once we have them, how do we just seamlessly integrate them into the workflows of the teams that are doing the work and the project managers who are tracking the projects, so that it becomes just a routine part of how they manage projects. And that was a huge lift, because when we started the program, we started with like a logic model that had like 150 or 200 elements in it, and it was just ridiculous and not helpful. I think you have to talk to all the stakeholders, and RTI really facilitated those activities. Talk to the stakeholders, find out what's important to them. We had, as Lena mentioned, we've had hubs come to us and say, hey, or other users come to us and say, we need to track participation in our outreach events or our educational events. And it was a relatively painless and seamless process of working that into the update tracker. So I think, as opposed to having a really heavyweight IT solution that is built around your requirements, having this flexible infrastructure that allows different users to add different capabilities on has been a big plus. And that's partly why we've been able to move this product and the use of this product across some other NIH translational programs like MedTech Blueprint or the Catalyze program at the Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. It's really that flexibility that makes it powerful. So I'm really grateful to the collaboration with RTI, and I think it's made our programs better as a result.
Great. Yeah, thank you. And I think all you and the other speakers have all touched on some really important themes that I've seen in my work as well, that I think we want to just reemphasize. And it's about that relationship with the programs. It's about kind of not seeing evaluation as a bolt-on sort of separate thing, but really as part of that one of the aspects of program management. It's not the only one. It's not necessarily the most important, but it should be right alongside. And I think one of the things, just to as the organizer, take my prerogative to ask you all a question. I think over the years I've been involved in similar tools and other kinds of programs, not necessarily commercialization programs. But one of the things we've always talked about is, by organizing the information together in this kind of a system, you really make possible some benchmarking. But that's always a challenging, on paper it sounds great, but then there's always these considerations in reality about benchmarking. And I wonder if you all have thought about that, and with Update Tracker, how you think you might be able to do benchmarking against programs. No two programs are the same. There are some similarities, So if we have some time, it might be interesting to hear from you on thinking about benchmarking using the tool like Update Tracker.
I'm happy to jump in on that. So one of the outcome measures, which really is a surrogate, because in the healthcare space, we have a profound handicap, which is that the life cycle is so long because of regulated technology and because of the way things are paid for. True success, patient and economic impact, is coming many, many years later. And that's obviously a whole nother problem that, we could talk about, people talk about as a career. But I would say that the benchmarking around things like follow-on funding are really important way to understand whether these projects are going to survive, have the potential to survive and be successful, because who knows what's going to happen 10 years from now. But for certain, if these projects aren't able to continue their development path forward with sufficient funding and resources to be successful, then by definition, they're kind of dead in the water. So that follow-on funding and the tracking of follow-on funding is really critical to doing. It's kind of like a surrogate for like a survival analysis, because survival analysis, you're checking to see if they're dead. Follow-on funding, you're saying, do they have the food necessary to survive without starving? So, the follow-on funding is great, and we see that across other programs. You can ask people to break it down however you want, which is also quite helpful to know where that money is coming from. It helps you to target your efforts for pushing projects forward. But I would say that's one where there's pretty much universal recognition that tracking those dollars is a valuable surrogate for seeing how the potential for these projects to be successful.
And if I can, sorry, go ahead, Julia.
Yeah, so if I can contribute, so of course, Mike McMahon has a great view at NIH level regarding benchmarking against other projects. What I saw with the tracker, it serves as a very useful tool of benchmarking individual sub-projects and providing program managers who do day-to-day operations at each hub level a very important view of who is ahead, who is behind, where they need additional help. And this is something that I wanted to bring to attention. To me, is very much in sync with evidence-based policymaking act, where performance management is integrated with program evaluation and policy analysis. So I find this a very cool implementation, not framed in the same way of the program at NIH level. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and just to add to that, with this data that we have collected on these projects and kind of their initial phases, it's actually pretty unique in the literature to be able to see how, like, the trajectories at this early stage, because most of the time studies are seeing, 10 years out, have they survived or not? There's kind of this binary outcome, whereas we're really seeing the multitude of kind of paths and trajectories that these companies or projects have taken to this point. And that both makes the data tough to work with, because there's like 100 different ways to be on the right track for you. But you can also see across this data really interesting trends in terms of like different technology types experiencing, different milestones at different stages, different levels of follow-on funding by PI characteristics as well as project characteristics. So at RTI, we are also, do a quick plug, working on evaluating that data and hopefully develop some papers that'll add to the academic literature and understanding of these commercialization processes.
Great, thanks. Rosalina, your hand's up.
Hi, thank you very much. It was a great presentation. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I actually had a couple of questions. So the first one being, other than the outcome metrics, and I'm interested in that because I'm from University of Miami, our CTSI, the Clinical and Translational Science Institute, and I'm the evaluator for that. And one of the programs we have as part of our workforce development is the NCATS at I-Course. So implementing that at our hub. So I've been looking at a micro level of what you just presented for the few teams that go through our program every year. And one of the questions we often asked and haven't been able to answer is there also a way where programs have looked at, are there certain teams that tend to be more successful than others? Are there measures that you see early on or have identified through Update Tracker that allows you to sort of say, these teams will be more successful going through these programs, whether it is the technology they are developing, or whether it is the team composition itself, or if it's something else, the support they are getting through the program mechanism. But that was just a general question.
Who wants to take that one?
It's a difficult one, I know, because we haven't been able to. It's a discussion. Like we think it's a cool question, but I don't know if we can, with the current data that even we have, we won't be able to answer that.
Yeah, it's a great question. People are always trying to figure out like what's the secret sauce. You know what? You can find a program, and you can even find projects that are successful, but like, what's the secret sauce there? It's hard to figure it out. I would say that just, you know, from an evaluation perspective, I think that this illustrates the trade-off between being very careful and selective about what you're going to measure, and the trade-off between that and then having the richness of factors involved and available to you to try and pull out these answers. So that's where you get 150 measures in your logic model from. And so what we did was we scaled that way back, and we said, okay, what are our most important outputs? What are our most important, you know, people who we're going to need to convince or talk to? And all of these other issues become much more difficult to answer in an evidence-based way. And I think that maybe there's some more detailed kind of sub-analysis or kind of post hoc investigation that we can do when we get to topics like this, and they might lead to more things that we might look at down the road. But it is a challenge, because for every detailed question that you have, there's 5 more outcome measures that you'd like to have been tracking, and once you get to all those interesting questions and you multiply that by 5, it's untenable. So it's just a, you know, it's a never-ending cycle. It's a problem that I think you have to lean on the people who are running the programs and are involved in a day-to-day basis, and take their intuition as a way, and their experience as a way to kind of put forward hypotheses that you can then test in a more rigorous way.
Yeah, and I think I would add to it, all the metrics were designed with constant input from practitioners. So like Adam said, RTI brings more research rigor in this area, right? Our area of science, technology, innovation, policy, program evaluation. We have lots of economists, you know, looking at, you know, return on investment type of kind of, you know, metrics and designs. But all of this was really designed with practitioners who know for themselves what really matters, what those milestones are, what are the outcomes they're looking for. And for me, that's actually very exciting, because it makes it very relevant. So it's a mix of academia and a practice. That's how I would consider, you know, the side of kind of metrics development side.
Yeah, I can jump in and say that the reason why it's not possible to answer this question at the individual project level, but it might be possible to answer at the program level. So, for example, if you compare hubs to each other, is something that we do at SBIR program, just stepping outside of the boundaries. As I have explained, this is a STTR phase 0 program, and so we deal with a whole range of companies, including those that are raising millions of dollars in addition to NIH to support product development. Ecosystem is very important. What kind of support they have through that ecosystem locally and perhaps virtually. The team is very important. We evaluate it as a part of the SBR application process and later, and I'm sure that investors evaluate that as a part of their decision making, and of course whether they meet their milestones. For example, technological readiness level is one of the milestones. Did the company change it as a result of going through? And those who go change technological readiness level by a large number of points, of course, they are going to be more likely successful, although some amount of luck is involved. So I would be happy to touch base with you. I actually wanted to learn more about iCorps on CTSA side.
Absolutely. I would love to connect and share like what we have learned like through our experience as well. And just like quickly with the update tracker, which I'm very excited about to see that. Is that a platform like a Power BI, Tableau based, or is it something like that is specific to you, like it's proprietary to RTI?
Yes, it's the rights of it belong to NIH.
Okay.
RTI developed it, like Matt said, a very light touch development, kind of more streamlined, and that's why I mentioned at the very beginning, it's nice to have those people on our team. So we, these are people ingrained with our team. They know why we're doing it, what the needs. I don't know. Matt, make sure I don't misrepresent anything on this.
Thank you.
If I can just make one comment back on the benchmarking question, we were talking about it. Innovator experience and education, because training was such a big part of these programs that if we have an innovator that says, hey, I went from here to here in the context of this program, and that's a success for us. And I think for this program, we probably have the data to show that we did that.
Yeah, Kathleen, I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about that just with the Catalyze program too. I think that's one of the other elements that we want to keep an eye on. So great. Well, we're at time. I really want to thank you all again for taking the time to talk through the program and the lessons that you've learned. Thanks everyone for joining. This kind of engage and knowledge sharing is really what we want to do as part of this community. So if you have other examples of projects you're involved with or colleagues you're aware of that could present, please let me know and we'll get them on the schedule. And like I said, it's about a week and a half left. If you have other evaluations that you'd like to submit for the annual conference in October, we'd love to have it. If you have questions about where to submit, I'm happy to talk in the next couple of days. I have to say that the AEA proposal submission process isn't that burdensome. You don't have to have a lot of the papers or posters ready when you submit. So, and you usually find out in May. So there's plenty of time to sort of finalize things and get them approved. So feel free to reach out to me if you think you might want to present at the community at the annual meeting in October. But thanks everyone. I'm going to end the meeting now, and we'll put the recording up on the website in a few weeks when it's ready. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Josh.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.